Mike, hey, congratulations with your new film, Fog of War.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You know what? I love these spy thrillers, but we have to hear it from you first. Is what initially drew you that you want to be directing this film and how you were brought on board?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I love directing different types of films. So like my first film was a dark comedy, so I've always wanted to try to mix it up every time. And I've always loved a good spy thriller. Those are just always just fun to watch. It just kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. And so this actually, I was approached to come on board, and they were already talking with John Cusack, who liked the script. And so then they reached out to me, and it's basically like if I liked it, then I'd have to then convince John Cusack that I was good enough to direct for him, I guess, essentially was how it played out. But yeah, so as soon as I read it, I was just like I couldn't put it down because like the whole time I'm just guessing like who is actually guilty here, who's the bad guy, and it was just a fun ride with a lot of it's just I love that it's contained too and with minimal characters, and so that's just always fun for me when you can pull something off like a story like that where there's not a lot of players, but there's something going on, you don't know what it is, and it kind of just keeps you guessing the whole time.
Yeah, I saw your filmography and I was trying to see if you've done other spy thrillers before, and it's very diverse. So, in the case with spy thrillers, because there's so many twists and turns, what is your approach to handling a story like that?
And to me, it all comes down to the editing, really. It's I think it's overshoot, I'd say. We that's one thing we did a lot of. We shot more scenes and we end up using in a lot more like looks and like hidden Easter eggs to kind of like red herrings to give things away. And so that was the approach, really. Like I wasn't sure what was going to work, what wasn't going to work, but so I was talking a lot with the editor while we were shooting too, and he always gives me a lot of good insight, and he's looking at the footage every day. And so that's kind of what we do. We just kind of shoot as much as we can like the overkill to give as much away as possible, and then in the edit we kind of find the pieces that work and make sense and kind of string it together that way, and then just kind of keep the audience guessing.
Indie war periods are tough, for any type of indie film projects, but you managed to pull it off. What were the certain things that you want to basically portray onto your film without busting your budget?
Yeah, I mean, I really just wanted to portray like I guess it was really hard. Yeah, I guess the location more than anything. It was really tough. I wanted to make sure that was the biggest challenge I think going in. I was most nervous about was how do we sell this period? I mean, we don't have the budget to get the costumes, the location, the set dressing, the rifle, the props. Those are always expensive, guns and stuff. The World War II outfits, and they're like we're in Connecticut, so we had to have everything shipped from LA or Connecticut or from New York. So that was the biggest thing going in I was nervous about, but we just got so lucky and we just found the right people that were just willing to give us a deal. I mean, really, it was the local community there that really bent over backwards for us. And luckily, there's a lot of antiquing there, and they all had a lot of, stuff that we could use that they just kind of had in their garages that were just for storage. And so it really worked to our advantage to be in Connecticut, and that was a huge benefit for us. And like there was a guy that we worked with that worked at the house. It's a museum, and we were looking for something we needed. And he's like, you know what? I know this one lady that might have it. She has a lot of antiques. And he calls her up, and she's like, well, I'm at the airport right now. I'm getting ready to go to Europe. She's like, but my door's unlocked. Just go and take whatever you want. And like that's just that type of people were there. And so he took us over, and she had just a house full of antiques that would fit the time period. And she's like, "Yeah, take what you want." And we just gave her like, she took a small fee, and it worked to our benefit. And so so that was what I was most nervous about. But we were very fortunate and got the right people.
Was the costumes hunted down, or you had to create it for this production?
We had to hunt them down because we didn't have the budget. It was in the long run, it was still cheaper to rent and ship than it was to like create from scratch. And so we pulled some from New York City and some from LA and just called in some favors to get some really good deals. And they just helped us out a lot. They knew our budget constraints and were like, oh, you know what? We'll help you guys out. We like you.
I'm assuming that's the same with the paintings that are is featured in this film.
Yeah, yeah. It was actually a local artist that this art department found, and so he helped us a lot with that too. And then there's some of those were just antique ones that that are now royalty free, or you can put on camera too because they're so old. So we found some of those just in some people's basements, and yeah, just got lucky with that.
Yeah, most definitely, especially the fact that you got lucky with that house. As you
Yeah.
indicated in Connecticut. Tell us about this beautiful house. I mean, it almost makes me feel like I should live out there in the rural New England.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. It has so much land and it's surrounded by woods everywhere, every direction. And it's a museum. It used to be an old farmhouse from like the 1700s, I believe it was. And so that's also that we thought was really interesting. It's like, back then, like, at first I was like, oh, we need to find a house from, World War II. It's like, but no, this would be a family that just inherited an old farmhouse and they made it their own. So that's why we had a lot of fun decorating it. So we had this old boned house from the 17 or 1800s, and then we kind of got to make it very eclectic with the dressing of stuff because we wanted to show that the John and Mira characters, they come from the city. That's a point they made, and they're now on a farm because of wartime, things are harder. But they brought stuff they had with them because they have like this eclectic taste. And so that's kind of fun to mess with the dressing. So you'll kind of see different things from different time periods and how it all kind of meshed together. And I thought Jordan, the production designer, did a really great job of just kind of giving it a look of it just felt homey with everything we had, with the paintings, the lighting, the couches, the furniture. Because when we went into the museum, the house, we had to take everything out because actually the stuff was too modern for us. So we had to take everything out and put it in the barn and then bring in like the couches, the tables, and all those things. And we sourced all that locally too, just from local people that just had the antiques sitting around.
Oh, wow. Now, of
Yeah.
course, you have such a wonderful cast. You even have big names in your cast, and indie directors would be jealous of that. Tell us about your overall cast and how lovely they were working on this project.
Yeah, from John to Mira to Jake to Brianna, I mean, they're all just, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better cast, and they're all just so nice. And we were out in the middle in the cold weather in Connecticut and raining, and everyone was just so happy to be there, and they all just loved the script and the characters, and just ready to, get into it and make it as good as possible. And that's the thing, like John was just so gracious with me and the script, and he had a lot of notes for scenes that he wasn't even in. I was saying earlier, it's just so like they're just all so great and just all really want to make a great film. And they all knew the budget constraints we were under, but they knew the story was great. And the goal was, well, we know we have a small budget, but we have a great story here. So let's just do what we can and make this story as great as possible. And they all helped really, like especially Jake. He was very adamant about making sure the dialogue worked for his character, and he added a lot of good stuff to the dialogue that stuck in the film, and same with John. And they all just brought a lot to the table, more than just they didn't just show up for the paycheck. They're there to make a good film.
Well, one last thing that I want to basically address is because directing fog would be the hardest thing. Can you tell us is part of it natural fog, or you had to rely on CGI fog for your film?
Yeah, we got so lucky. Like I don't know if there's like a drone shot over the woods and it's just all fog and stuff like that. Like that was the DP. I actually went to college with him, Dean Fisher, and so he would go out early in the mornings before we even got there with the drone and just get fog shots because he knew we'd need them. And so a lot of it's natural. The only time we had any fog enhancements, I'd say, is we had the fog machine on the scene where the final scene with John and Mir when they're running to the car. We had to have a little fog machine to help there. But other than that, it was all really natural, and we got very lucky, and we just kind of, yeah, got lucky with the fog. Otherwise, we were joking going in, we're like, well, if we don't get fog, we have to change the title of the film.
Well, Mike, it's a great conversation. Hey, congratulations once again. Thank you for speaking to us about the fog of war. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.